Captain Elena Vasquez sat in her command chair, watching the stars through the bridge windows of the UHS Defiant. The destroyer was on patrol near the edge of human space, protecting mining colonies in the Kepler sector. It was quiet work, boring, most of the time. Elena preferred it that way. Quiet meant her people were safe. The bridge was small but efficient. Her crew of 30 worked at their stations, monitoring sensors and checking systems. The Defiant was not the biggest ship in the human fleet, but she was fast and deadly. Elena had commanded her for 3 years, and they had never lost a fight. "Captain," called Lieutenant Rodriguez from the sensor station, "I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors." Elena turned toward him. "What kind of strange?" "Multiple contacts, ma'am. Very large signatures. They're still far out, but they're heading this way." Elena stood and walked to the sensor station. The display showed dots of light moving through space toward human territory. There were many of them. Too many. "How many ships are we talking about?" Elena asked. Rodriguez checked his readings again. "At least 200, Captain. Maybe more. They're huge. Much bigger than anything we have." Elena felt her stomach tighten. 200 ships was not an exploration fleet. It was an invasion force. She had heard rumors about aliens beyond human space, but first contact was supposed to happen through diplomats, not warships. "Red alert," Elena ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Communications. Send a priority message to Fleet Command. Tell them we have unknown contacts approaching human space in overwhelming numbers." The bridge lights changed to red. Throughout the ship, alarms sounded as her crew prepared for battle. Elena knew they were outnumbered, but running was not an option. Someone had to warn the colonies. On the main screen, the alien fleet grew larger as they approached. Elena could see individual ships now. They were massive, each one the size of a small moon. Their hulls glowed with strange energy patterns. These were not exploration vessels. They were built for war. "Incoming transmission, Captain," reported the communications officer. "It's on all frequencies. They want us to receive it." "Put it through," Elena said. The main screen changed. A creature appeared that Elena had never seen before. It had crystalline skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. Multiple eyes lined its elongated head, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like breaking glass. "I am Admiral Zix Thera of the Galactic Hegemony," the creature said. "You primitive beings have entered space without permission. Your expansion ends now. Surrender your ships and worlds to the hegemony, or we will take them by force. You have 1 rotation of your planet to comply." The transmission ended. Elena stared at the blank screen for a moment. Then she started laughing. Her crew looked at her with concern, but Elena could not help herself. These aliens had no idea what they were dealing with. "Communications," Elena said, still smiling. "Open a channel to the alien fleet." "Channel open, Captain." Elena straightened her uniform and looked directly into the camera. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Human Ship Defiant. You are in human space without permission. This is your only warning. Reverse course immediately, or we will consider your presence an act of war. You have 30 seconds to comply." She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. They were all staring at her. Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke first. "Captain, there are 200 of them and one of us. Elena's." Smile grew wider. "Rodriguez, how long have you served under me?" 3 years, ma'am." "And in those 3 years, have I ever led you into a fight we could not win?" Rodriguez thought about it. "No, ma'am. But we've never faced odds like this." Elena walked back to her command chair. "That's because you're thinking like the aliens. You see one human ship and assume we're alone. But humans don't fight fair, Rodriguez. We fight smart." She activated her command console and sent a coded signal into seemingly empty space. Around the Defiant, space began to shimmer. One by one, human ships appeared as their cloaking systems powered down. Destroyers, frigates, and cruisers materialized in perfect formation around Elena's ship. "Now we see how smart these aliens really are," Elena said. Admiral Zix Thera stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Glory. The massive dreadnought was the pride of the Hegemony fleet. Its weapons could crack planets, and its shields had never been breached in 1,000 years of conquest. "The primitive responds with defiance," reported his tactical officer. "They claim we are in their space." Zixthara's crystalline features reflected amusement. In all his years of conquest, no species had ever refused the hegemony's generous offer of membership. Most surrendered immediately when they saw the fleet's size. A few tried to fight and were quickly crushed. "How many ships do they have?" Zixthara asked. "Sensors show approximately 50 vessels, Admiral, all much smaller than our ships. Their largest vessel appears to be 1/10 the size of our smallest frigate." Zixthara nodded. This was typical. Young species always overestimated their abilities. They would learn quickly that size and experience mattered in space combat. "Signal the fleet," Zixthara ordered. "We will destroy 10 of their ships as a demonstration. The rest will surely surrender when they see our power." But as the hegemony fleet moved into attack formation, something unexpected happened. The human ships did not form a battle line as every other species had done. Instead, they scattered in all directions, moving at speeds the aliens had never seen before. "Admiral," the tactical officer called out, his voice filled with confusion. "The human vessels are moving at impossible velocities. They're using some kind of instantaneous propulsion system." Zixthara watched the display with growing concern. The human ships were not behaving like any enemy he had faced. They moved like a school of fish, each one independent, but somehow coordinated with all the others. "Fire on the nearest human vessel," Zixthara commanded. "Show them what happens to those who defy the hegemony." The Eternal Glory's massive plasma cannons fired. Beams of pure energy, each one capable of destroying a city, lanced toward the human destroyer. But the target was no longer there. It had vanished and reappeared behind one of the hegemony frigates. "Impossible," Zixthara whispered. "No ship can move that fast." That was when the human ship fired back. But instead of energy weapons, it launched simple metal rods. They moved so fast they were almost invisible, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The rods punched through the hegemony frigate's shields as if they did not exist and tore the massive ship apart from the inside. Zixthara watched in horror as his frigate, a vessel that had conquered dozens of worlds, broke apart and died in seconds. Around the battlefield, his other ships were reporting similar attacks. The humans were not fighting like any species he had ever encountered. They struck and vanished like ghosts made of metal and fire. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, his voice shaking. "We're receiving a transmission from our deep space sensors. Multiple human fleets are approaching, from different directions. There are hundreds of them." Zixthara stared at the tactical display. What he had thought was the entire human fleet was just the advance guard. The real force was still coming. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Zixthara felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Admiral Zixthara tried to understand what was happening. His tactical display showed chaos. Hegemony ships were dying faster than he had ever seen in centuries of warfare. The humans moved through space like nothing he had witnessed before. "Status. Report," Zixthara demanded. His tactical officer, a 6-armed creature from the Mordak species, worked frantically at his station. "We have lost 12 frigates and 3 cruisers, Admiral. The humans are using weapons we don't understand. Simple, kinetic projectiles but moving at incredible speeds." Zixthara watched another of his ships explode. A human destroyer had appeared next to it, fired a single shot, then vanished before his gunners could return fire. The hegemony ship, which had served for 300 years, was gone. "How are they moving so fast?" Zixthara asked. "Unknown, Admiral. They seem to disappear from one location and instantly appear in another. Our targeting systems cannot lock onto them." On the other side of the battlefield, Captain Elena Vasquez coordinated her small fleet with practiced efficiency. The human ships moved in perfect harmony, each captain knowing exactly what the others would do. "Phoenix Squadron, hit the big one on the left," Elena commanded over the tactical network. Ghost Squadron, take out their communications ship. Remember, hit and run. Don't stay in one place long enough for them to target you." The human ships responded instantly. 3 destroyers appeared around a massive hegemony dreadnought, their jump drives allowing them to materialize at point-blank range. They fired tungsten rods accelerated to 20% of light speed, then jumped away before the alien ship could respond. The dreadnought's shields, designed to stop energy weapons, provided no protection against raw kinetic force. The tungsten rods punched through the barrier and tore into the ship's hull. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as critical systems failed. "That's what happens when you build ships to intimidate instead of fight," Elena muttered. Her communications officer looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm getting reports from all squadrons. The aliens are completely confused. They keep trying to engage us in traditional formation combat, but we're not cooperating." Elena smiled. Human military doctrine had been shaped by centuries of warfare on Earth. They had learned that survival meant adaptation, and adaptation meant never fighting the enemy's fight. Let the aliens waste time with their massive, slow-moving ships. Humans would dance around them like mosquitoes around elephants. "Ma'am," her sensor operator called out. "The main human fleet is arriving. Admiral Chen is requesting tactical data." Elena looked at the display. Dozens of new contacts were appearing throughout the system. These were not just destroyers and frigates. Heavy cruisers, battleships, and even the massive human carriers were jumping into the battle zone. "Send all tactical data to Admiral Chen," Elena ordered, "and tell her the aliens don't know how to fight fast-moving opponents. Their weapons are designed for ship-to-ship slugging matches, not intercepting high-speed targets." Admiral Sarah Chen sat in the command center of the UHS Yorktown, the flagship of the Third Fleet. She reviewed the tactical data from Captain Vasquez and felt a cold satisfaction. The aliens had made a classic mistake. They had assumed that bigger was always better. "All units, this is Admiral Chen," she broadcast to the entire human fleet. "The enemy is using outdated tactics and outdated technology. Their ships are massive but slow. Their weapons are powerful but cannot track fast-moving targets. We will use wolf-pack tactics, form into hunting groups of 4 to 6 ships, isolate enemy vessels and destroy them one by one." The human fleet responded like a well-oiled machine. Ships that had been scattered across the system suddenly organized into small hunting groups. Each group had a specific target and a specific plan. Chen watched as her captains implemented the plan. Human ships would surround a single alien vessel, attack from multiple angles, then jump away before the enemy could coordinate a response. It was like watching wolves hunt a herd of buffalo. Admiral Zixathera realized he was losing the battle. His ships were dying and he could not understand how. The humans had fewer vessels, smaller weapons, and less armor. By every measure of space combat he understood, they should be easy to defeat. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "Captain Velmon is requesting permission to retreat. He has lost half his squadron." "Retreat?" Zixathera could barely comprehend the word. The hegemony did not retreat. They conquered or they died trying. But as he watched another of his dreadnoughts break apart under human attack, he began to understand that this battle was different from any he had fought before. "Sir, I'm detecting energy signatures from the human ships we haven't seen before," his science officer reported. "They appear to be scanning our shield frequencies and adjusting their weapons accordingly." Zixathera turned to stare at the science officer. "They're adapting their weapons during the battle?" "Yes, sir. Their hit rates are improving with each attack. They're learning our defensive systems and finding ways around them." That was impossible. It took years of study to understand alien technology. No species could adapt that quickly in the middle of a battle. But as Zixathera watched, human weapons became more and more effective against his ships. Shields that had protected hegemony vessels for centuries were suddenly useless. Captain Elena Vasquez coordinated her ship's attack on a hegemony cruiser. The Defiant jumped to close range, fired a spread of kinetic penetrators, then jumped away. But this time was different. This time her weapons punched through the alien shields like they were not even there. "Direct hits," her weapons officer reported with satisfaction. "Their shields are down to 20% effectiveness." Elena frowned. How is that possible? We haven't changed our weapons. Ma'am, her science officer called out. I've been analyzing the alien shield technology during the battle. I think I figured out how to disrupt their defensive grid. I'm uploading the data to all human ships now. Elena stared at her science officer. Lieutenant Park was brilliant, but what he was claiming seemed impossible. You reverse-engineered their shields in the middle of a battle, Park shrugged. Their technology is actually pretty simple once you understand the principles. They use rotating frequency shields, but they don't randomize the rotation pattern. Once you map the sequence, you can predict the weak points. Across the human fleet, weapons officers received Park's data and adjusted their targeting systems. Suddenly, every human weapon became twice as effective against hegemony shields. Ships that had seemed invincible began dying even faster. Admiral Zixthera watched his fleet crumble. In less than 2 hours, he had lost over a third of his ships. The humans had casualties too, but far fewer than they should have. Every principle of space combat he had learned over centuries of conquest was proving wrong. Admiral, his tactical officer said quietly, perhaps we should consider withdrawing. We can regroup and analyze human tactics before engaging again. Zixthara wanted to refuse. The hegemony did not withdraw from primitives. But as another of his dreadnoughts exploded under concentrated human fire, he realized that these humans were not primitives. They were something else entirely, something dangerous. Signal the fleet, he said finally. All ships will jump to rally point 7. We will regroup and reassess the situation. But even as he gave the order, Zixthara knew the truth. The hegemony had not just lost a battle. They had encountered something that would change the galaxy forever. These humans were not like any species they had faced before. They were predators, and they had just announced their presence to the universe. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the tactical display aboard the UHS Yorktown, watching as more human fleets arrived in the battle zone. Ships appeared from multiple directions, not as one massive formation but as separate hunting packs. This was how humans had always fought their wars, not as a single army but as many smaller forces working together. Admiral, her communications officer reported, all fleet commanders are requesting orders. Chen studied the tactical situation. The alien fleet was trying to regroup after their initial losses, but they were still thinking like traditional naval forces. They wanted to form a battle line and fight ship to ship. That was their mistake. Send this to all fleet commanders, Chen said. The enemy expects us to meet them head-on. Instead, we'll use pack tactics. Surround them, cut off their escape routes, and kill them one by one. Make them fight our fight, not theirs. Captain Marcus Webb of the destroyer UHS Wolverine received Chen's orders and smiled grimly. He had studied the initial battle reports from Captain Vasquez. The aliens were powerful but predictable. They fought like they were still commanding wooden sailing ships instead of spacecraft. All right, Pack, Webb said to the 5 other destroyer captains in his hunting group. We have a hegemony heavy cruiser trying to reach their main formation. Let's show them what happens when they travel alone. The 6 destroyers jumped simultaneously, appearing in a perfect sphere around the alien cruiser. The massive ship found itself surrounded with nowhere to run. Its captain tried to target one of the human ships, but before he could lock on, all 6 destroyers fired at once. Tungsten rods traveling at relativistic speeds hit the cruiser from every direction. The alien ship's shields collapsed under the coordinated assault, and secondary explosions tore through its hull. In less than 30 seconds, a ship that had served the hegemony for 2 centuries was nothing but debris. Pack leader to all units, Webb broadcast. Target destroyed. Moving to intercept the next convoy. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human pack tactics devastated the hegemony fleet. The aliens tried to adapt, but they were fighting an enemy that had spent centuries perfecting the art of warfare. Every human captain knew how to work independently while coordinating with the whole. Every crew member understood their role in the larger battle plan. Admiral Zixthara watched his formations crumble. His ships were being picked off one by one, isolated and destroyed before they could support each other. The humans moved through, space like they owned it, appearing wherever they wanted. striking with perfect timing. "How many ships have we lost?" Zixthara asked his tactical officer. The Mordak checked his displays with all 6 arms working frantically. 67 vessels, Admiral. We're losing ships faster than our weapons can track the humans." Zixthara tried to understand what he was seeing. The humans fought like no species in the galaxy. Most civilizations developed space combat from their experience with ocean warfare, large ships in formation, trading broadsides until one side retreated. But these humans fought like they were born in 3 dimensions, using space itself as a weapon. "Sir," his science officer reported, "I'm analyzing human tactics and finding patterns we haven't seen before. They're not just fast. They're thinking, faster than us. Every move is coordinated with every other move. It's like they're sharing a single mind." "Impossible," Zixthara said. "No species can coordinate that precisely in real-time combat." But even as he spoke, Zixthara watched a perfect example of human coordination. A group of human destroyers lured one of his dreadnoughts into pursuit, then led it straight into a trap where heavy cruisers were waiting. The dreadnought realized the danger and tried to escape, but human ships appeared behind it, cutting off retreat. In minutes, the massive vessel was destroyed. Captain Elena Vasquez coordinated her part of the battle from the bridge of the Defiant. Her ship had been upgraded during the fighting with new weapons designed specifically for alien technology. Human engineers were working miracles, adapting and improving their systems while the battle raged. "Captain," her weapons officer reported, "the new plasma disruptors are working perfectly. We can now overload alien shields with a single hit." Elena nodded. This was how humans fought. They learned from every battle, adapted to every new threat. The aliens had superior technology when the fight started, but humans were already building better weapons. "All ships, this is Defiant," Elena broadcast to her squadron. "Target the command ship, big crystalline vessel at the center of their formation. If we take out their admiral, the rest might surrender." Her squadron acknowledged and began moving into position. But as they approached the alien flagship, Elena realized the enemy was finally adapting too. The remaining hegemony ships had formed a defensive circle around their command vessel. "Interesting," Elena said. "They're learning, but not fast enough." She opened a channel to Admiral Chen. "Ma'am, requesting permission to try something crazy." Chen's voice came back immediately. "What do you have in mind, Captain?" "A direct assault on their command ship. I think if we can capture their admiral alive, we might be able to end this without destroying their entire fleet." There was a pause, then Chen replied, "Approved. But Elena, don't get yourself killed. We're going to need experienced captains for whatever comes next." Elena smiled. "Don't worry, Admiral. I don't plan on dying today." She turned to her crew. "All right, people. We're going to do something stupid and dangerous. We're going to jump inside their defensive formation and board their flagship." Her crew stared at her. Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke first. "Captain, that's suicide. Even if we can get through their defenses, we don't know anything about their internal ship design." Elena's smile grew wider. "Rodriguez, how many times do I have to tell you? Humans don't fight fair. We don't board their ship. We make them come to us." She turned to her weapons officer. "Load the special package in Tube 1 and prepare to jump on my command." The Defiant vanished from its position and reappeared directly above the alien flagship. Before the enemy could react, the destroyer fired a single projectile, not a weapon, but a modified missile filled with human marines in powered armor. The missile penetrated the alien ship's hull and deployed its cargo. 50 human marines, each one a veteran of multiple battles, found themselves inside an enemy vessel designed for creatures 3 times their size. But they had one advantage the aliens didn't expect. They had been born on a world where everything was trying to kill them. Admiral Zixthara felt his ship shake as something penetrated the hull. Then his bridge lights went out, replaced by emergency illumination. "Report," he demanded. "Hull breach on Deck 7, his damage control officer reported. "Something is moving through the ship. Our security teams are not responding." Zixthara realized what had happened. The humans had not just attacked his ship, they had invaded it. In all his years of service, no enemy had ever been crazy enough to board a hegemony vessel during battle. Send all available troops to repel the invaders, Zixthera ordered, but his troops were not prepared for what they faced. The human Marines moved through the ship like ghosts, striking from shadows and disappearing before his soldiers could respond. They knew exactly where to hit to cause maximum damage: life support systems, power conduits, weapon controls. Captain Elena Vasquez monitored her Marines' progress from the Defiant. The boarding action was working perfectly. The aliens were so focused on dealing with the Marines that they couldn't coordinate their fleet defense. All units, Elena broadcast. The enemy flagship is distracted. Press the attack. End this now. The remaining human ships converged on the alien formation, with their command ship under assault and their admiral fighting for his life. The hegemony fleet finally broke. Ships began retreating in all directions, abandoning their positions and running for safety. But Admiral Chen was not finished. All units pursue and capture as many enemy vessels as possible. We need prisoners, technology, and information. Let some escape to carry word back to their government, but make sure they remember this day. As the battle ended, Admiral Zixthera found himself a prisoner aboard his own ship. The human Marines had taken the bridge without killing anyone, but they had made their point clear. The galactic hegemony was no longer the dominant power in this part of space. Standing before the crystalline alien, Marine Captain Jessica Torres spoke in careful, slow words. "Admiral, my name is Captain Torres. You are now a prisoner of war. Your fleet is defeated and your ship is under our control. Will you surrender formally, or do we need to continue this the hard way?" Zixthera looked at the small human warrior. She was half his size, but he could see in her eyes the same predatory intelligence that had destroyed his fleet. These humans were not just technologically advanced. They were evolutionary, perfected for warfare. "I surrender," Zixthera said quietly. "But I must warn you. The hegemony will not let this defeat go unanswered. You have just declared war on the entire galaxy." Captain Torres smiled. "Admiral, I don't think you understand. We didn't declare war on the galaxy. The galaxy declared war on us. We're just finishing what you started." Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the interrogation room aboard the UHS Yorktown, studying the alien prisoner. Admiral Zixthera sat across from her, his crystalline features reflecting the harsh lights. Between them lay the wreckage of what had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. "I need to understand something," Chen said, her voice calm but firm. "Your species has conquered hundreds of worlds. You have technology that's centuries ahead of most civilizations. How did you lose so badly to a species you had never encountered before?" Zixthera's multiple eyes focused on Chen. Even in defeat, he maintained his dignity. "Your species fights differently than any we have encountered. You move like predators, think like predators. Most civilizations develop space combat from naval traditions. Large formations, powerful weapons, honorable battle. But you fight like the universe itself is your hunting ground." Chen nodded. "That's because it is. Admiral, let me tell you something about humans that your intelligence clearly missed. We didn't evolve on a garden world like most species. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years." She activated a holographic display showing Earth as it had been throughout human evolution. Ice ages covered continents in glaciers. Volcanic eruptions blocked out the sun. Asteroids struck the planet with the force of nuclear weapons. Climate shifted randomly, forcing early humans to adapt or die. Every few thousand years, something happened that should have wiped us out. Chen continued. Ice ages that lasted for millennia. Supervolcanic eruptions that turned day into night for decades. Plague, famine, war, natural disasters. Earth threw everything at us. Zixthera watched the images with growing understanding. "Your world was hostile to life?" "Hostile?" Chen laughed. "Admiral, our world was actively trying to exterminate us. But instead of killing us, it made us stronger. Every disaster taught us to adapt faster. Every challenge made us more resourceful. We didn't just survive, we learned to thrive in chaos." She changed the display to show human history, tribes migrating across frozen continents, cities rebuilding after earthquakes, farmers adapting crops to new climates, warriors developing new tactics for each enemy they faced. By the time we developed civilization, we had already survived everything the universe could throw at us, Chen said. Ice, fire, flood, drought, predators, disease, starvation, we had beaten it all. And when we finally looked up at the stars, do you know what we saw? Zixathera remained silent. More hunting grounds, Chen said simply. Every star system was just another place to explore, another challenge to overcome, another territory to claim. We didn't expand into space despite being from a death world, Admiral. We expanded because of it. The alien admiral finally understood. You are apex predators. Exactly. On most worlds, evolution produces specialists, creatures perfectly adapted to stable environments. But Earth never gave us the luxury of stability. We had to become generalists, capable of surviving anything. And when you're built to survive anything, everything else becomes prey. Chen walked to the window, looking out at the aftermath of the battle. Hegemony ships drifted powerless, while human salvage teams studied their technology. In just a few hours, humans had learned more about alien science than most species learned in decades. Your mistake was thinking we were like other young civilizations, Chen continued. Peaceful, cautious, easily intimidated by superior numbers. But humans don't think that way. When you showed up with 200 ships to demand our surrender, you know what our first response was? Captain Vasquez threatened war, Zixathera said quietly. No, Chen corrected. Our first response was curiosity. We wanted to know how your ships worked, what your weapons could do, how your tactics functioned. You thought you were delivering an ultimatum, but we saw it as a learning opportunity. She turned back to face the alien admiral. And that's the real difference between humans and other species. Most civilizations see the unknown as something to fear or avoid. We see it as something to understand and conquer. Back on Earth, the news of humanity's first contact was spreading across the planet. In the military command centers, generals studied battle reports with satisfaction. In research facilities, scientists analyzed captured alien technology. In government buildings, politicians planned humanity's next moves. President Maria Santos sat in the Oval Office, reading the preliminary reports from Admiral Chen. The battle had been more one-sided than anyone had dared hope. Humanity had not just survived first contact, they had dominated it. Madam President, her military advisor said, Admiral Chen is requesting permission to pursue the retreating alien forces into their territory. Santos considered the request. The smart move would be to fortify human space and prepare for retaliation. But humans had never been satisfied with defensive strategies. Tell Admiral Chen she has authorization to pursue, Santos said. But make it clear, we're not conquering. We're exploring. Any species that wants to join us peacefully is welcome. Any that wants to fight will learn what happens when you threaten humanity. In space, the remaining hegemony ships fled toward their home territories, carrying news that would shake the galaxy. Admiral Zixathera's second-in-command, Captain Mordek, transmitted emergency reports to Hegemony High Command. The humans are not what we expected, Mordek reported. They fight with precision we have never encountered. Their ships move faster than our sensors can track. Their weapons adapt to our defenses in real time. And their tactics. He paused, struggling to find words. They fight like the universe owes them everything and they intend to collect. The message reached hegemony space ahead of the fleeing ships, and the reaction was immediate. Some species called for total war against the human threat. Others demanded to know how a primitive civilization had destroyed their most powerful fleet. A few wise leaders suggested that perhaps it was time to reconsider the hegemony's approach to newer species. Meanwhile, human fleets had already begun moving into former hegemony territory, but they were not coming as conquerors. Captain Elena Vasquez, promoted to Commodore after her heroic actions, led a task force to a world that had recently declared independence from the hegemony. The planet Kepler 442b had been a hegemony mining world for 3 centuries, its native population forced to extract resources for their alien overlords. When news of the human victory spread, the locals had risen up and driven out the hegemony administrators. This is Commodore Vasquez of the United Human Federation, Elena broadcast to the planet. We understand you have declared independence from the galactic hegemony. We're here to offer assistance if you want it, or we can leave you alone if you prefer. The choice is yours. The response came from Governor Thexari, leader of the rebellion. Commodore Vasquez, we have heard of your victory over the hegemony fleet. Is it true that humans defeated them in open battle? It's true, Elena confirmed. They came to our space demanding surrender. We showed them that humans don't surrender to anyone. There was a long pause. Then Governor Thexari spoke again. Commodore, for 300 years my people have lived under hegemony rule. They told us it was for our own good, that young species needed guidance. But it was slavery disguised as protection. If you truly offer friendship instead of conquest, then we accept. Elena smiled. This was how it would begin, not with threats or demands, but with offers of partnership. Humans would not rule the galaxy through fear like the hegemony had. They would lead by example, showing that there was a better way. Welcome to the Federation, Elena said. Now, let's talk about what happens when the hegemony tries to take your world back. Because they will try, and when they do, they're going to discover that humans protect their friends. Across human space, similar conversations were taking place. Species that had lived under hegemony rule for centuries were declaring independence, knowing that humans would support them. The careful order that the hegemony had maintained for millennia was crumbling, replaced by something new. Admiral Chen received reports from all sectors. Human influence was spreading faster than their ships could travel. The mere knowledge that the hegemony could be defeated had sparked revolutions across dozens of worlds. Admiral, her communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender. Requests from 17 different star systems. They want to join the Federation rather than face possible human retaliation. Chen shook her head. Tell them we don't accept surrenders from people who haven't attacked us. If they want to join the Federation, they apply like everyone else. We're not interested in ruling through fear. This was the human way. Not to conquer, but to inspire. Not to demand submission, but to offer partnership. The galaxy was about to learn that there was more than one way to build an interstellar civilization. And somewhere in hegemony space, Admiral Zixathera's warnings were finally being taken seriously. The humans were not just another primitive species. They were something entirely new in the galaxy. Apex predators who had turned the art of war into a science, and who saw every challenge as an opportunity to grow stronger. The age of human expansion had begun, and the universe would never be the same. The Hegemony Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Representatives from 12 species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia sat around a massive circular table, their voices raised in anger, fear, and confusion. At the center of the chamber, a holographic display showed the devastating battle reports from the Kepler sector. Council Chairman Vextol, an ancient creature whose species had been the first to join the hegemony, called for order with his powerful voice. Silence. We will address this crisis with the dignity befitting the rulers of the galaxy. But dignity was hard to maintain when facing the impossible. Admiral Zixathera, recently exchanged in a prisoner swap, stood before the council to deliver his report. His crystalline features had lost their usual shine, and his multiple eyes showed the 1,000-yard stare of someone who had witnessed the unthinkable. Honorable Council members, Zixathera began. I must report that we have encountered a species unlike any in our records. The humans of Sol 3 are not merely technologically advanced. They are evolutionarily designed for warfare. Councillor Thys of the Velmari hissed her disbelief. Impossible. No species develops purely for combat. Evolution produces balance, not extremes. Zixathera activated his own holographic display showing images from the battle. Observe their tactics. Each human ship operates independently yet coordinates perfectly with all others. They strike and vanish before we can respond. They adapt their weapons to our defenses in real time during combat. This is not learned behavior. This is instinct. The Council watched in stunned silence as human ships tore through the hegemony fleet. Ships that had conquered hundreds of worlds died in minutes under coordinated human assault. How many ships did we lose? Asked Counselor Morthek. 147 vessels, Zixthera replied. Against a force 1/4 our size, and the humans captured our most advanced technology, interrogated our officers, and learned our fleet deployment patterns. They gained more intelligence from one battle than we typically gather in decades of occupation. Council Chairman Vextol leaned forward. What are you saying, Admiral? I am saying that we did not lose a battle. We have encountered a species that will reshape the galactic order. The humans are not content to remain in their small corner of space. They are expanding, and every species they encounter has a choice. Join them willingly or be conquered. Across the galaxy, news of the hegemony's defeat spread like wildfire through quantum communication networks. On worlds that had been under alien rule for centuries, the impossible had become reality. The mighty galactic hegemony could be beaten. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, Governor Thexari addressed his people from the capital city. Behind him, the flags of the hegemony had been torn down and replaced with the blue and white banner of the United Human Federation. My people, Thexari announced. For 300 years we have labored under foreign rule. We were told that young species needed guidance, that we were not ready for self-governance. But humans have shown us a different path. They offer partnership, not domination, freedom, not servitude. The crowd roared its approval. Similar scenes were playing out across dozens of worlds as species that had been suppressed for generations rose up against their hegemony overlords. But not all of the galaxy welcomed humanity's rise. On the fortress world of Terminus Prime, War Marshal Kreldor of the Zephyrian Empire viewed the reports with cold calculation. The Zephyrians had been the hegemony's primary military force for centuries, and they saw humanity's expansion as a direct threat to their power. Marshal, his aide reported, intelligence estimates that human forces have established protectorates over 43 former hegemony worlds in the past month. Their expansion rate is unprecedented. Kreldor studied the tactical displays. The humans were not just conquering territory. They were building a network of alliances that spanned multiple sectors. Every world they liberated became a base for further expansion. Prepare the 3rd and 5th battle fleets, Kreldor ordered. We will test these humans ourselves. The hegemony may have grown soft, but the Zephyrian Empire has not forgotten how to wage war. Meanwhile, human expansion continued at an explosive pace. Commodore Elena Vasquez, now commanding a full battle group, stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the UHS Relentless. Through the viewports, she could see the construction of humanity's first starbase beyond their original territory. Ma'am, her communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Chen. She wants to know our status on the Zephyrian situation. Elena had been expecting this. Intelligence reports indicated that the Zephyrians were mobilizing their fleets for a confrontation with human forces. Unlike the hegemony's mixed fleet of different species, the Zephyrians were a warrior culture with centuries of military experience. Tell Admiral Chen that we're ready, Elena replied. The Zephyrians want a fight? We'll give them one they'll never forget. But the real change was happening not on battlefields, but in the hearts and minds of species across the galaxy. For the first time in millennia, there was an alternative to hegemony rule. The human example had shown that the established order could be challenged. On the trade world of Haven Station, representatives from 17 different species gathered for an unprecedented meeting. They came from worlds that had never cooperated before. Former hegemony subjects, independent systems, and even some current hegemony members who were questioning their allegiance. Ambassador Sarah Kim, humanity's first diplomatic representative to the broader galaxy, addressed the assembly. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications, we are here because the galaxy is changing. The old ways of doing things, rule by fear, submission to power, acceptance of oppression, those days are ending. She gestured to the diverse crowd before her. Humanity offers a different model. We believe that every species has the right to determine its own destiny. We believe in cooperation, not conquest, partnership, not domination, and we believe that together, we can build something better than what came before. The response was immediate and powerful. Species that had been enemies for centuries began talking about cooperation. Trade agreements were signed between worlds that had never trusted each other. New alliances formed based on mutual benefit rather than fear. Back on Earth, President Maria Santos met with her military advisors and diplomatic corps. The reports from across human space were encouraging but also concerning. Humanity's rapid expansion was making them powerful enemies. Madam President, Secretary of Defense John Harrison reported, "Our intelligence services are tracking military buildups by at least 6 major powers. They're all responding to our expansion with increased militarization." Santos nodded. She had expected this. Any species that had held power for centuries would not give it up without a fight. But humans had been preparing for this moment since they first looked up at the stars. "John, what's our current military readiness?" "We have 47 battle groups deployed across 17 sectors," Harrison replied. "Construction of new ships is proceeding ahead of schedule. More importantly, we have defense agreements with 63 worlds and mutual aid treaties with 34 governments." Santos smiled. This was the human approach, not just building military strength but building relationships. When the inevitable confrontations came, humanity would not be fighting alone. And our technological development? Incredible progress. Ma'am, analysis of captured hegemony technology has advanced our science by decades. We're developing weapons and defenses that are specifically designed to counter known alien capabilities. But perhaps the most important development was happening in human academies and training centers across known space. For the first time, humans were teaching their military and diplomatic methods to other species. The galaxy was learning to think like humans, to fight like humans, to solve problems like humans. Captain Torres, the Marine who had captured Admiral Zix Thara, now commanded a training facility where soldiers from dozens of species learned human tactical doctrine. She watched a mixed unit of humans, Kepler natives and former hegemony subjects work together seamlessly. "The key to human success," she told her students, "is not our technology or our ships. It's our mindset. We see every problem as solvable, every enemy as beatable, every challenge as an opportunity to grow stronger. That mindset is what we're teaching you." Across the galaxy, the tremors of change continued to spread. The galactic hegemony was fragmenting as member worlds declared independence. New alliances formed around human leadership. Ancient enemies put aside their differences to face the changing galactic order. And at the center of it all, humanity continued to expand, explore, and build. Not as conquerors, but as partners. Not as rulers, but as leaders by example. They had taken the lessons learned on a harsh world where everything tried to kill them and transformed those lessons into a philosophy of cooperation and growth. The galaxy had trembled when human warships first appeared. Now it was reshaping itself around human ideals. The age of fear and submission was ending, replaced by an age of opportunity and partnership. Admiral Sarah Chen, now promoted to Fleet Admiral and commanding all human forces,